My name is Zainab, and this is a story of how a man made me believe in love only to use me and laugh in my face. But I did not cry for long. I wiped my tears and I made sure he paid for it, not with violence, but with something sweeter: truth. Because some men forget that the heart they break might one day hold the pen that writes their downfall. 2 years ago, I wasn't looking for love. My life rotated between the Buka in Surulere and my tiny one-room apartment. I was a sales girl, an ordinary one. I wore the same two uniforms every week, memorized my customers' orders, and kept my head low. Life was hard, but I had peace. That peace shattered when Kunle walked in. He was charming, confident, and annoyingly persistent. Every day he sat by the window, smiling like he knew something I didn't. The day he first spoke to me, I rolled my eyes. Fine boys like you don't eat here, I said. But he just laughed. For weeks he returned, sometimes with friends, sometimes alone. His orders stayed the same, but his words grew bolder. "You deserve more than this Buka life," he once whispered, handing me a box of chocolate. Slowly, my walls started crumbling. It wasn't just his persistence, it was the way he listened, the way he laughed at my dry jokes, the way he remembered that my dad died in 2019. It made it feel personal. I began looking forward to his visits, to the way his cologne lingered after he left. It was dangerous, but I didn't care. I was already falling. He asked me out 6 times before I said yes. Even then, I was hesitant. "I don't do heartbreak, Kunle," I told him. He promised he wasn't like the other guys. He didn't just say the right words, he showed them. Dates at Eco Atlantic, surprise gifts delivered during my break time, even a pair of slippers because he said my feet deserved better. One day, I joked that I was tired of buka rice. He brought me Chinese food the next day. "From a girl who serves food to a girl who deserves the world," he said. My heart opened wider than I planned. I met his friends, Tunde, Bode, and Sheyi. They were loud, flashy, and strangely too nice. They called me our wife. I remember how they always exchanged glances when I was around, like there was an inside joke I wasn't in on. Once, I caught Bode smirk at Kunle while I poured drinks. "You get mine though," he muttered. Kunle waved it off. I didn't really think much of it. Maybe I didn't want to. Love has a way of blinding you to red flags, waving in your face. I had no idea I was the joke. 4 months passed. We had our ups and downs, but I was in love with Kunle. One evening, he took me to Takwa Bay, the ocean breeze, the quiet scene stars. I felt like I was in a Nollywood movie. That night, he told me he loved me, that I was the one. And under those stars, with his words echoing in my chest, I gave him my heart, my soul, and my body. It was my first time. I trusted him completely. I thought he would hold my heart with care. I thought I had found the one. Little did I know that he was only after the trophy of conquering me. After that night, Kunle changed. He didn't ghost me. He did worse. He began to fade. Texts became dry. Calls turned into excuses. The Booker visits stopped. When I reached out, he replied with, "I am busy at the office." I told myself he was just stressed, that men needed space sometimes, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. My gut twisted each time thoughts of him came to my head. The magic was gone, and I didn't understand why. Until the day I overheard Bode and Sheyi laughing at the back of the booker. It was that day that my world collapsed. Guy, Kole has cashed out 200k for sleeping with one sales girl. Can you see the steez? Sheyi said, laughing out loud. I froze behind the curtain, tray in my hand. Bode added, with how innocent she looked, I thought she wouldn't give in, but she felt like a fool. You see the way she started talking about love with him? Kunle the player and love in the same sentence. They both burst into laughter. My ears rang. My heart sank. It was like someone had stabbed me in the chest and twisted the knife. I waited till they left. Then I walked into the storeroom, locked the door, and slid down the wall. I didn't cry yet. I was too numb. That night, I went to Kule's apartment unannounced. He opened the door shirtless, holding a drink. It was obvious he had company. The moment he saw me, he smirked. Z, what are you doing here? I couldn't speak. I just looked at him. This was the man I had loved, trusted, given my most precious gift. I asked one question when I finally found my voice, even though I was scared of the answer. Kunle, was I a bet? He blinked, then he chuckled, then laughed out loud. Babe, why are you so serious? It was just fun. Please shake it off. My eyes filled with tears, but I refused to let them fall in front of him. I turned and I walked away, but he didn't even call me back. I cried that night. I cried like I died because someone did. Me. The innocent me. The trusting me. I ripped up every love note he had ever written. I threw away the slippers, the perfume, the books. I screamed into my pillow, cursing him, cursing myself. I have never felt so cheap, so stupid, so broken. But after the tears dried and the sun rose, something in me changed. I wasn't going to be the victim. No. I would teach him a lesson he would never forget, and I would do it with the same tool he had used against me: deception. I spent the next couple of days thinking of ways to make him pay. That was when the idea struck me. I remembered how Kunle used to brag about his boss's generosity. According to him, the very generous pay was why he was still in the country. I had seen his boss once while dropping off lunch for Kunle at his office. Mr. Desmond was in his late 30s. He was rich and newly divorced. Kunle used to call him Odogu. He was attractive, tall, soft-spoken, and clearly lonely. It looked dangerous, but I did not care. I would take everything away from Kunle, just like he took from me. The first step was research. I asked around and found that Desmond was a regular at a lounge on Victoria Island every Friday. I started going there, dressed like fire and ice, fierce but mysterious. It took 3 weeks, but he finally noticed me and offered to buy me a drink. I declined, smiled, and walked away. The next week, I let him buy the drink. The third week, we talked. I told him I was a caterer. He was intrigued. I let him chase me, the same way Kunle had chased me. The irony didn't escape me. Revenge, after all, was best served cold. But Desmond was different. He was polished, matured, and surprisingly vulnerable. He spoke of his divorce like a wound he had healed from. I listened. I didn't need to lie too much. I told him I once loved someone who broke me. He nodded like he understood. When he asked for my number, I gave it to him. When he called, I picked up. We would talk for hours. When he asked to see me again, I said yes. And when he finally kissed me, one rainy evening in his car, I didn't flinch. My plan was working. I was in. Kunle would never see it coming. Within a few months, Desmond and I were dating. He wasn't like Kunle. He was calm, respectful, and curious. He listened and treated me like a lady. But I wasn't there for love. I was there to make sure that Kunle got as much hurt as he gave me. I knew that my revenge would get complicated if feelings got involved, and I tried hard to avoid that. The best part of all this was that Kunle had no idea what was coming to him. After a few months, I got Desmond to offer me a contract job, catering to wellness events and organizing staff engagement programs. My excitement was out of this world when he gave me the offer. I thought about how it would feel being in the same office space as Kunle, and my excitement grew even more. I took my time to dress up very well for my first day. I could feel the eyes on me as I walked down the office lobby. That was the exact reaction I wanted. As fate would have it, Kunle was walking down the same lobby. He did not recognize me at first, but as he came closer and our eyes met, realization hit him like a brick. I didn't even blink. I just walked past like he didn't matter. But inside me, butterflies danced. The shock on his face was simply delicious. The next day during lunch, he pulled me into an empty office and asked what I was doing there. I laughed hysterically, the same way he had laughed at me when I confronted him about the bet. The look on his face was priceless. I had imagined that look for so long, but did not know it would feel so satisfying. When I was done laughing in his face, I turned around and walked away, leaving him in a state of confusion. A week later, things took a dramatic turn. I saw a young cleaner named Amara, looking scared as she rushed out of a hallway, with Kunle walking far behind her. I followed her into the cleaner's changing room and asked her gently, "Are you okay?" She shook her head and walked away fast. Something felt strange. A few days later, another cleaner, Esther, froze when Kunle entered the elevator. Something was not right, and I was curious to find out. I started asking questions carefully, quietly, and what I found out shocks me even more than what Kunle had done to me. He had a pattern of taking advantage of cleaners and young girls on internship with the company. He promised them promotions, permanent positions, and money. But after he got what he wanted, he dumped them like trash. Most of the girls were too naive and scared to speak. Who would believe a cleaner? Amara asked me. If I report him, I will lose my job, another girl said. I promised them that their voices will be heard and Kunle will get the punishment he deserved. There was no way I was going to let him get away with this, not this time. I started collecting evidence, WhatsApp chats, voice notes, pictures. I suggested to Desmond that we have a staff wellness week and include a session called Power and Abuse, Safe Spaces at Work. He liked the idea. I asked the HR to create an anonymous complaint box and encourage cleaners and young staff to write their stories in there. After 24 hours, the box was retrieved and Desmond and I went through every submitted complaint. It was heartbreaking to see how many ladies had fallen victim of Kunle. When Desmond read the complaints, he was speechless. How long has this been going on? He asked. I told him the truth with all the evidence I had gathered. He paced around and said, "Call HR. I want a full staff meeting today." The conference room was full. HR, senior staff, and cleaners too. Desmond stepped forward and addressed everyone. Today, we are addressing abuse of power in the workplace. Amongst the complaints we have received, one name stands out. He paused and turned to Kunle. "Mr. Kunle, do you have anything to confess?" Kunle laughed. Confess? About what? Desmond went on to list some of the complaints against Kunle while keeping the identity of the ladies private. "They are all mad," Kunle snapped. "They are liars. Where is the proof? This is nothing but a witch hunt by Zainab. She is bitter that I dumped her ass, he screamed as he pointed at me. She planned all this, he accused. Surprise and confusion spread through the room. Desmond stared at me like he had seen a ghost. I could see the pain in his eyes, but before he could speak, Amara stood up boldly. He promised me a better job, slept with me in the storeroom, then stopped answering my calls, she said, pointing at Kunle. Another cleaner stood up angrily and said, I lost my pregnancy because he told me to get an abortion and I was too scared to tell anyone. All eyes now turned to Kunle. Do you deny it? Desmond asked. Kunle stammered. Um, they're just cleaners. Who cares? Desmond shouted in disbelief. They are cleaners, but does that make them less human? Less worthy of respect? Disgust was written all over his face. Kunle exploded. Can't you all see? This is Zainab's revenge. She's playing all of you. Desmond replied calmly, No, Kunle, you played yourself. He nodded at security to escort him out. Kunle tried to beg, but it was no use. Desmond had zero tolerance to any form of abuse in the workplace. As they dragged Kunle out, he screamed like a madman, Zainab, you will regret this. But I just watched in silence. My job here was done. I had come seeking vengeance for myself, but I ended up liberating other young girls. I knew I had hurt Desmond in the process, and I wasn't sure what his reaction will be, but I was ready to accept it. Kunle had shamed me in secret, but I exposed him in public. That evening, I sent him my resignation letter. As I packed up to leave, Desmond called me into his office. He looked tired. Why, Zainab? Did you plan all this? He asked. I nodded and explained everything to him. How I met Kunle, how I gave him my heart and body, only to find out I was just a bet with his friends. I did not do this to hurt you, Desmond, I said. I came here wanting to make him pay for hurting me, and in the process, I ended up saving more girls than I imagined. Desmond sighed deeply. Then he smiled. You did the right thing. Just don't carry this pain forever. I started crying. I'm sorry, Desmond. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to fall for you. He held my hand and said, You didn't fall, Zainab. You rose, and you lifted others with you. Months passed. Kunle disappeared from social media. I heard he moved to Ibadan. My catering business grew, with Desmond being my biggest supporter. Sometimes I still hear people gossip. Isn't that the girl who exposed Kunle? And I smile. Yes, I am the girl who was once used, but now uses her voice to fight back with love, strength, and truth. So, if you are watching this, hear me clearly. You can rise after betrayal. You can heal after pain. And sometimes, the best revenge is becoming the person they never thought you could be. Don't ever let betrayal define you. Rise, fight back with truth, and shine so bright that even your scars look like victory marks.